There's something going on in the short term, and then there's the debate about what's going on in the long term. Let's start with the short term. The flows data seems to imply sustained momentum behind at least institutional interest, right, in Bitcoin. Just give me your assessment of the here and the now.
Yeah, so if I look at the short term, Ed, I really see that the Bitcoin ETF demand has surpassed a lot of people's expectations. I mean, traditionally, we have always expected that Bitcoin, before Bitcoin halving, the prices always goes up. But even when we see the sell pressure from the market, people who have been through the bear had actually hold it, we see the buy is just too much. So it's been a very interesting cycle for Bitcoin.
Something that I've been bringing up on air in the last few days, if not weeks, is that there is a scenario where those that are bullish on cryptocurrencies, particularly Bitcoin, and those that are bearish on Bitcoin seem to agree on one thing. That is, from where we are now, it is likely Bitcoin goes to a higher milestone. We just talked about 80,000 as a medium-term call. I've also seen 100,000, but there are many that agree that it will then pull back. What's your understanding of the why behind that?
I think combination of things. The first thing is after the Bitcoin halving, we always see some sort of a plateau or 10 to 20% pull-in squeeze. We are also expecting, a lot of people in the market are expecting interest rate to be cut down before elections. And I think the elections being this year in United States going to really define how the political roadmap, whether pro-crypto or not that much pro-crypto, going to define. But beyond Bitcoin, we have already started seeing the technology rally, which is with ETH and Polygon and Solana. So I think that's also going to define this roadmap of Bitcoin prices.
There is an interesting news story this very morning where the Riksbank governor, a central banker, gave his opinion that he wanted to minimize Bitcoin's, I guess, influence, presence in the financial sector. He said, I want as little Bitcoin as possible in the Swedish financial system. What do you make of the central bank governor weighing in like that?
I mean, we have seen that again and again. Every bull cycle, we see some country or some influential Web2 world institution coming and saying this could be a problem, and then in the bear market they are like, see, we told you it's a problem, and then more institutional adoption, more retail adoption, and then more and more states and countries started using it. I mean, so it's not new. Said that, I think it's beyond any particular state, city, country at this point of time, to all the way to US, where now we do have Bitcoin ETFs, where only 3 years back, the question was Bitcoin will be even legal or will it exist or not, back in 21, 22 itself.
The central bank governor's argument was that it's not a threat to financial stability, but he's worried about the impact on consumers that may or may not choose to hold that as a risk asset. What is the big picture that's happening here beyond Bitcoin? What is the state of industry right now for crypto, Kavita?
I think it's all about technology. We usually, Ed, like you and me have talked about this before, we always talked about just the Bitcoin and the prices. Like even when we talk about anything in this space, we always talk about whatever has got hype, like, oh, NFTs done by some Hollywood actor. But the real thing out here is the technology, the decentralization of things, which are now used by some of the biggest companies, some of the biggest institutions globally. And that's why you see Ethereum rally as the second biggest asset currency. Then you're seeing altcoins, which I want to call technology tokens, actually, whether it's Polygon, whether it's Solana, whether it's Arbitrum. Optimism is doing very well, which is letting the transaction per second to be way much more scalable and much less cost. So I think it is about the technology which is not just Web3 native, but adoption in supply chains, adoption in international remittances, adoption in stablecoin yields. And I think we need to start talking in the mainstream media more about the underlying tech than just the price movement. It's really amazing when we have $1 trillion to talk about, but I think the technology should start making the highlights now.
On the technology and the long term, there seems to be bipartisan, not support, but probably acknowledgement of what's happening with cryptocurrencies and the underlying blockchain technologies. Do you agree with that? that that's what's happening in DC in particular?
Yeah, but I also feel like DC is much more informed today than what it was 5 years or 4 years back. But at the same time, we should look at blockchain as a more of a trusted technology than just, oh, whether it's a cash currency or Bitcoin. So just to give you a quick example, because you were just talking about OpenAI, today you can scrap data from anywhere, but doing the verification of that data has always been a problem with the social media and the AI chat GPT process. And that's what gives you on blockchain the verification of the data, the ownership of that content, and whom to give it back to if it's there's an IP right associated with it. Very similar to what New York Times and a lot of news media actually tried to blame and sue OpenGPT. I think we are forgetting that at the end of the day, whether it's Ethereum, whether it's blockchain, any of those things, Bitcoin, we are talking about the underlying traceability, verification, decentralization technology. And I think going back to DC, more and more people are getting informed about it. But just the charm of
Right.
talking about 20K Bitcoin prices are just too difficult to get away from.